everybody. Welcome to Skordle. My name is Michael Swisher, and I am with Ben Johnson, and this is our second go-round at our little, if you will, audio podcast. Ben, good evening to you, sir.
Same to you. Well, I guess we should open it up to people and let them name the show. I can't think of anything creative.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some people out there that watch this will come up with some very creative names that we cannot use, but yeah.
Well, of course.
Let's have a contest. Name that show because
there we go. Some of our guys at Skordle, they might be the ones that come up with a name that we would want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if somebody out there comes up with a great name, we end up using. Maybe we'll get you some Skordle gear or something like that.
There we go.
Leave it up to me to just give our stuff away. So
hey, do what you got to do.
Yeah. So any of you guys out there, come up with something, tweet it to Ben or myself. You'll see our Twitter handles pop up on the screen here, and feel free. But what we're going to do tonight is just kind of kick around some things that have been happening in the high school sports world of late, some pretty big stories in Oklahoma. So let's just kind of talk about that. And Ben has really been on top of all of this stuff. If you've been seeing his stuff on Skordle.com, and of course we share it on Twitter and on Facebook. Ben has just been all over it, and I think there's only one place to start, and that's with legendary Jinx coach Alan Trimble announcing his retirement. It's something we knew was coming. It was just going to be a matter of when, and obviously just unfortunate circumstances with ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease. But Ben, this is really you talk Oklahoma high school football, and it hitting the bat big time. It really started with Alan Trimble and Jinx.
Oh, no doubt. That's why, like you said, the unfortunate situation with him being diagnosed with ALS. Once the season was over, we went through the whole thing last summer with him, retiring and then unretiring a couple of days later. So you kind of had the feeling that once Jinx's season was over this year, that something might be up. So a couple of people that I know around the coaching industry, kept being in touch with him because they know Trimble pretty well. And, just for a couple of months now, it's been a matter of how he could, retire, but keep his retirement benefits. And I think that'll be kind of interesting to watch because I think he'll still be a part of the program, which will be interesting to see who they hire, just because whoever is hired will kind of want to keep Allen in the mix. So it'll be kind of interesting. But you talk, like you mentioned, high school football in Oklahoma. Begins and ends with Alan Trimble at Jinx, because since he's taken over the program, Jinx has just been a juggernaut, and someone from Broken Arrow like myself had to sit there and watch Jinx win title after title, and Broken Arrow still searching for its first. But you couldn't wish success for a better guy. You talk to all the various coaches and people. They don't even have to be coaches, just people in general. They have nothing but good things to say about Alan Trimble because, like in my story, I was talking to Bobby Clink, one of his former players, and obviously there's a relationship there. But, for him to be at Muskogee and for them to kind of get in an argument, and then a couple of days later, he writes a letter to Trimble writes a letter back, and they hug it out. I think that's the kind of guy he is. Right. You might get something with Trimble, but, a couple hours later, he's going to be the nicest guy in the world, and that's the way I've always known him too.
Yeah, and I think one thing you can credit him with is, like I said, Oklahoma high school football really started with him getting that job. And obviously he elevated the Jinx program, but I think he made everybody else, Jinx made everybody else get better, including obviously Union. Broken Arrow got better. Owaso's had to do it. It all starts on the east side for the large schools.
Yep.
But, the west side, it took them a while, but the west side has it closed that gap. There's still a long ways to go.
Sure.
He's really elevated. If you could point to one person who's made Oklahoma high school football better, it's Alan Trimble, and what he's done at Jinx. He's made everybody get better. And so that leads us to, this is a big replacement. This is a big job. This is one of those jobs where you could do like Union did in 2006 and go national. Did not work for Union, Kevin.
No.
I I worked at the BA Ledger that year. I covered Union that year.
Wow.
It was a disaster. And he is a really good coach. He proved it before. He's proven it since.
Yeah, and he's at the IMG now, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a terrible fit.
Right.
Jinx could try to go that route. Obviously, the Alan Trimble umbrella is large.
Yep.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people that think it should go to a Jinx person. But this is a big hire. I mean, Jinx is kind of this was his worst team in quite a while. The program maybe in just a little bit of flux. So, this could be a really pivotal hire. I mean, it is a pivotal hire for Jinx.
Yeah. You kind of see the pendulum swinging from Jinx to Wasso just for the time being, just because obviously Bill Blankenship being back in the fold has created, a third power, and, Broken Arrow's right there. Whether they can, get to that next level remains to be seen. But, the Tulsa World put out a list of potential candidates, and it was kind of fun to go through them and see, who might be on there. And there were a couple guys on the list that I actually texted. I'll just throw his name out there, JJ Japan. I was talking to him, and he just kind of laughed it off because he knows, the rest of those guys on the list, he might be way down. He might be way down the pecking order. But you have guys like Dub Maddox. I've heard his name, but I've also been told that might not, like, he might be in the running for different jobs, or there might be something else out there for him, or who are some of the other ones? Brad Kale up at Booker T.
Yeah.
And then you've got Tag Gross at Holland Hall and Darren Melton at Lincoln Christian. Darren kind of stepped away from the football role, but I've heard from a couple of people they want Darren to try and pursue it, and I've known Darren for several years, and an absolute great guy, and I think he might be a guy that would step in and have conversations with Alan and kind of let him kind of not be a co-head coach situation, but definitely have Alan in the mix. And I think, like I said before, that might be something that they're going to entertain for a while.
Well, I think there's only one name for the job, and Bill Blankenship, but Owasso might disagree with that. But how great a story would that be?
Oh, my gosh.
Bill Blankenship took over
that. Then at what point does Broken Arrow try and hire Bill Blankenship? And he just runs the gamut of all four East powers.
Absolutely. And the only question is how many more years is Bill going to do it?
Yeah.
But before we get away from football, we're going to stick with football, but one of the other big coaching moves was on the west side, and unfortunately this is one of those that kind of stung you and I a little bit, mostly you, because you were really all over this story. But it is Justin Jones leaving Bishop McGinnis and going to Norman North. The news broke last week, and really I think it was the week before when a little birdie told us about the rumor, and you and I both chased it down and were able to figure it out. But for those out there not familiar with our job, there's kind of that balance that we have to have, especially when you cover high school sports. You break the story and put it out there when you've got multiple sources telling you it's true, but before a guy has a chance to tell his high school kids that he's gone. And some people will do that, others choose not to. We chose not to. And so you had the story ready to go, just waiting for the meeting to get it approved, and he was able to tell his team earlier that day, and the story broke. But it is what it is. I don't hate the decision because it's a different animal when you're dealing with high school kids and high school coaches, and I think there's just kind of a code you need to follow because this isn't college athletics. This isn't it's getting to be multi-million-dollar, but and it's certainly not the pros. So anyway, that's my boo-hoo story for Skordle, and then not getting to break that story. But big move. I thought Bishop McGinnis was going to have a lot of good candidates to fill that job. It turns out that they went with an assistant assistant Brian Pierce. But Norman North is one of those marquee jobs here on the west side, so that's a big move. And Justin Jones is their man.
Yeah, and Justin's proven himself time and time again. A Bishop McGinnis, couple runner-ups. Obviously, whenever you're in the same district with Carl Albert, but then managed to work your way into the title game a couple of times against him. I mean, you've proven in 5A that you're worth your salt in coaching, and he's done it a couple of times, and he had a really good team last year. I thought Carl Albert was just kind of head and shoulders above everyone else, but with a guy like Justin Jones running the team, you just never know. Of course, it didn't help that they lost their running back in the playoffs and kind of put them behind the 8 ball. But yeah, Justin, I'd heard whenever Brett Barnes left for Arizona that maybe Norman North's talent might not be as good coming up, but I kind of find that hard to believe. It seems like Norman North has always been one of those West Side jobs here recently that continually has success. So
yeah,
maybe there aren't. Maybe it's a 6-4 or a 6-4 regular season run, and they're still going to make the playoffs, I would think. So
yeah, and especially with the way it's set up now. 6A1, 6A2,
right?
You can win one playoff game, and they're final. So, but Norman North, like you said, for the last just a shade under a decade, they've been in the discussion at least as the best team in the West.
Yeah.
Sometimes they've come through and certainly been there. So big coaching move there. Justin Jones going to Norman North and filling that open spot. And as we said, Brian Pierce, a longtime assistant, did get the head coaching job there. You sent me a list yesterday. Some all the other or most of the other football coaching moves out there. Just for me, a couple of them. There's big names. Like a coach like Matt Hennessy, who had some success. At Muskogee. Early on. Right at a decade ago, had some really good teams at Muskogee.
Another Trimble assistant, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Most recently known for what he's done at Locust Grove.
Yep.
Takes the Pawhuska job. Pawhuska hasn't been very good of late, and so we'll see how he does there. There was another one that stood out to me earlier. Now I lost it. Well, Shannon Watford. He's going to Douglas. He's hopped around a little bit.
Yeah.
Won 2 state championships at Hennessy in the 2000s, and he's been at Purcell. He's been at Prague. Had a cup of coffee at Star Spencer maybe as an assistant, but now he's at Douglas. So Shannon Watford, a proven coach. Douglas is a program that can put some good teams out there. So that was one that stood out to me. And, of course, there's another unfortunate one, and that's the Mulkey opening, which that you were all over there. Just terrible circumstances with that one.
Yeah, I got a text. I think it was sometime late last week. Just sitting at home with my wife and son, and then all of a sudden, I get a text from one of the guys I know really well in the coaching circuit, and he goes, Carl Lidl Mulkey has died. And I knew he was relatively young, so obviously my first response is really. But I guess I had forgotten that he had gotten diagnosed with cancer in the middle of last football season, and he powered through and he coached the rest of the year. But after the season was over, really got some aggressive treatment. It sounded like he had some surgery around Easter of this year. Had some complications, developed some pneumonia, and the pneumonia ended up getting the best of him. So just terrible. He's 35 years old. That's about how old I am. So it's kind of scary to think, whenever someone that age dies, and you never know how much time you have on this earth. It's just unfortunate. And he had done some good things at Old Mulkey. Mulkey for the past couple of years had just been terrible. But he got them to respectability at least, and got them into the playoffs. Whenever you play Barry on the first round, you're going to get bounced. But compared to where Old Mulkey had been, probably one of the better coaching jobs around, honestly.
And then, another couple of a good job that came open was Beggs that got filled by David Tennyson.
Yep.
A move that, I don't know, surprised me a little bit was Scott Harmon going to Ponca City. Of course, he was a longtime coach at Hominy.
Yep.
I believe they won it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, two years ago, because they beat Afton in the
Yeah.
2016 semifinals and won. Then Afton won it this past year in
Yeah.
2017.
So Harmon going to Ponca City, which under Coach Rob Fry had a couple of decent teams, but when you're competing in 6A and you're a standalone community like that, places like Enid and Ponca City, it's tough. So we'll see what Coach Harmon can do there. Any other jobs out there that stood out to you that came open or that got filled by anybody?
You mentioned Beggs. It kind of caught me by surprise that Lee Blankenship went to Bartlesville, but at the same time, Lee, his career trajectory has been pretty good. Obviously had Beggs, on the cusp of winning a title. Just a great guy, had a ton of talent this year. So, Bartlesville is one of those jobs. I mean, they made the finals a couple of years ago against Bixby.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows something about some talent around there. And Bartlesville is always kind of one of those communities where it kind of sneaks up on you when they have a solid group of talent. So maybe they have some, and whatever they have, I know Lee's going to get the best of them because when it comes to dealing with guys in the coaching profession, I mean, they don't get much better than Lee Blankenship because, he wants to win, but at the same time, I know everyone in our profession talks about wins and losses, but when it comes to Lee Blankenship, he wants to win, but he also wants those players to leave high school prepared for whatever's next in their lives. And I always admire the coaches that, treat their players like sons in addition to just players that are going to get them notches on their resume.
All right, man. So that's kind of do it for some of our football talk. Let's move on. Some big basketball news up there on your side of the state. As Oklahoma State got a couple of decent commitments from Tulsa Memorial.
Yeah, we talked in our last video about the 5A title game, Memorial and Booker T, and I mean it's unbelievable just the amount of talent running around on that court. And Bill Haitian at the Tulsa World had talked I think he'd done a column not too long before that about their recruiting was about to ramp up. Well, they kind of cut that off before it ever really got started.
Yeah.
They went to OSU this past weekend, fell in love with everything. And one thing that I thought was interesting, talking to Memorial coach Bobby Allison, he talked about the Boone brothers loving that Mike Boynton kind of is this underdog figure in the coaching circuit because we all know what happened with Brad Underwood and him leaving to go to Illinois. And Mike Boynton kind of took the job. And I don't know many people in the state of Oklahoma that were thinking, yeah, Mike Boynton, he's the next guy for the job. So he got the job, really proved himself, I thought, in his first year. And I think that impressed the Boone twins, really talking to them. They liked what Boynton was all about. And then they both, OSU offers good major programs for what they want to do. I think Keelan said he wants to do engineering. Caleb wants to be broadcasting. So Caleb obviously became my favorite since he wants to do journalism. Of course, I would like to tell him run as fast as you can.
No, that's two ways. Hey, yeah, dude, just you tell them stay out for two reasons. One, we don't need the competition.
Right.
Two, it's like, oh, dude, you don't know what you're getting into. No, just don't do it.
Well, not only that, we've seen him play basketball, so I think he has a pretty good shot of having a good career in that. I mean, when he's 6'8", about 180, but once he gets to college, he's going to put weight and muscle on. And, of course, they've got a whole senior year left of high school basketball. So, I would venture to say Memorial, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone that's favored to win the 5A title more than Memorial. I mean, I know Classen might have some guys coming back, and they were really talented in the state tournament. But, between Booker T having Bryce Thompson and then Memorial having the Boone twins, we could have a Booker T Memorial showdown again.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, and I don't know if I covered this on the last video, and I'm going to try to find this text really quick. But the next year's Tournament of Champions, I believe Booker T and Memorial are both. Yeah, here it is. Putnam City West, Booker T, Memorial, Kingfisher, which didn't lose the game this year until the state finals. Kingston, 3A runner-up. Hugo, 3A state tournament. Fort Cobb, your four-time defending Class A state champion, and Whitesboro, who has everybody back from a state tournament team in Class B. So, I mean, the tournament champions is good every year, but it should be a really, with all that talent coming back for Booker T Memorial, and then you throw in Kingfisher. It has everybody back. Whitesboro has everybody back. Kingston has Jacob Germany back and all of them. So should be a fun tournament of champions next year. Certainly look forward to that.
Yeah, and what's crazy, I think Memorial actually played for third in the tournament champions this year because I think they lost to Midwest City.
Yeah, Midwest City, who won the tournament champions this year. You wouldn't have thought that.
Right.
Going into the tournament or once the season ended and you see how everybody ended up, you look back on that and said, how did that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Before we close it up, or and I'll turn it over to you here in a minute. There's somebody I'd like to mention on here. Give a little shout out to one of the top athletes in the state. I don't know if you've heard of her up there, but Haley Swayze from Carousel. She's recently got named to the OGBCA, and I think maybe even the OCA All-State basketball team. So that made her a four-sport All-Stater.
Really?
Which is just incredible. Which, anybody, in this area is familiar with the Swayze name. Her brother, Cole Swayze, tremendous athlete at Purcell. Couldn't stay healthy. It seemed like he'd always run into a serious leg injury.
Right.
He ended up, I think, maybe walking on to OU, but really, injuries cut his career short. But Haley averaged 21.8 points, 6.4 rebounds in basketball. As I said, she got All-State there. She's a 3-time state champion track. She's won the 300 hurdles the last 2 years. She was the runner-up the 100 hurdles last year. She hit 351 and took Purcell to the 3A softball fast pitch state championship. So she earned it there. And here's the kicker is as she's playing softball, she decides to apparently go run the regional and cross country. She gets third at regional and sixth at state, and those are the only 2 races she ran all year. And I think those are that's the first time she's run cross country since junior high.
Wow.
So that 6th place finish got her All-State in cross country. But just a tremendous athlete. And, every now and then you'll hear about 3-sport All-Staters.
Right.
I can't name a lot of 4-sport All-Staters off the top of my head. Maybe this is something I need to get Chris Wilfong on. But
that seems like something right up his alley.
Yeah, he'd love that. So maybe I'll have to tweet him. He better be watching this. I shouldn't have to tweet him. He better be telling.
Oh, did we lose Michael? All right. Well, if we ended up losing Michael and he dropped off, appreciate you guys watching. I think we got you back. There you go. There you are.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully we caught some of that. Anyway, if not, I said some really, really cool stuff there.
I figured you did, so that's why I really wanted to get you back.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that's on Haley Swayze. Anything else out there for you, Ben?
No, I'm looking forward to sometimes in the spring sports there's just so much going on that it's hard to really nail down everything. But once the championships roll around, it's always a fun time. I always enjoy going to some state golf tournaments. I mean, it's really laid back, but then towards like that final day when it's 18 holes and there's a good close run between individuals or teams, it's pretty fun. And then baseball's always good. I always like state track, but none of them are over here on my side of the state this year, so I probably won't make any of them. But going to try and make a state tournament or 2 for golf, and then maybe try and stop by ORU for some state baseball and turn out some stuff for school.
Yeah, man. I mean, small school qualifiers are next week for golf. Girls regionals for golf are next week. Kingfisher is hosting a 3A boys qualifier, and then 2A girls and boys regionals in golf. So I'll have some pretty good golf around here.
There you go.
Especially 3A when you got one of the better golfers in the state, Logan McAllister, Christian Heritage.
Yep.
And then OCS, which yesterday, I think it was today or yesterday, I can't remember, getting the days mixed up, but they finished second at a 5A, 6A tournament, 36-hole tournament behind Owasso by 8 strokes. So OCS is a really good team and got some good players. So yeah, some really good golf, and I love going to small school baseball. I say small school 4A and below. I just
right.
I really enjoy it. So hope to get out and catch some of that. One other thing of note, Ben lost his decorations behind him. He ran up and took them down. I have no decorations behind me. But one thing I also don't have is that cool little face light that Ben has. Oh, there they are. He just panned down.
Well,
okay.
Ben
also had that cool light. You know how dark it is in mine. I noticed with you messing with it earlier. Look at you.
Well,
I got to work on.
The battery actually died, so I had to go in the dark the last couple minutes.
Okay, well, we're gonna get all this stuff ironed out. I'm gonna have a cool computer light like Ben before long. Anyway, thanks Ben for joining us. Your insight is always tremendous, and it's great to have. And thank you guys for watching us. Remember, download the Skordle app and use that if you don't already. And then follow us on Twitter. You can follow Skordle on Twitter, follow Ben on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. You'll get a lot more information with Ben, and then follow us. Go like our Facebook page. Up there. Anyway, again, thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.